What's up guys, Chaseontwowheels here, and today we are going to be looking at the SJ5000X. So guys, the SJ5000X is going to be one of those cameras that's in competition with the GoPro, except at a much more, let's say, budget-friendly price point. You can grab this camera that I'm going to be reviewing today for $105 as compared to $500 that the GoPro Black is going to be. Now, the reason I bring up how much the camera actually costs is because that is something you really need to keep in mind when looking at the quality of this camera. I will tell you off the bat, this camera is not going to look as good as a GoPro 4 Black. You shouldn't expect it to, with it costing $400 less than a GoPro though. So guys, before we get into this review, let's go over the specs real quick, just so we can get them out of the way. You're going to be looking at a 12 megapixel CMOS sensor that has a 170-degree field of view. You've got a 2-inch LCD screen on the back of the camera, and it comes with a 900 milliamp hour battery. This camera also has capability of doing modes like other cameras similar to it, like time-lapse, burst photo, photo itself, and video mode. One thing weird I did notice with this camera is it can only write onto cards up to 32 gigabytes. On a GoPro that'd be a problem because 4K gets pretty massive, but it's not too bad on this camera, and I'll tell you why later on. On top of all that, the camera is capable of recording in these different frame rates. So let's talk about build quality for a second, because this is one of the places that the budget cameras really don't keep up with the GoPro. If you press on the GoPro and you hold it, it feels like a solid camera. When you're holding the SJ5000X, if you actually press on the bottom, you can see where the plastic bends and stuff like that. It doesn't lead to you feeling like it's a very competent unit, and it worried me a little bit how much it actually bended when I was pressing on the camera. So here's something that actually surprised me with the battery on this camera. I knew that it came with a 900 milliamp hour battery, which is one of the smaller batteries that I've seen in one of these budget cameras. But typically the GoPro still underperforms in the battery department every time I test it versus a camera. This is actually one of the first cameras that didn't last as long as the GoPro in my testing. So with all of the recordings done, the GoPro ended up recording 1 hour and 15 minutes, and the SJ5000 only recorded 45 minutes. That is a considerable amount of time for one battery. Now granted, it's a removable battery, you can change it out, you cannot get multiple batteries. Personally, if I'm already going to be compromising video quality, compromising my battery is something I really don't want to do, so I was very let down with that with this camera. This is typically where I would talk about the accessories that the camera comes with, because inside of the box the camera does come with a ton of accessories. If you buy this camera, I want you to get all those accessories and I want you to throw them away. I noticed when I tried to use them with my GoPro accessories, they wiggled around a little bit, which made them pretty much pointless. Keep the case, and that is it. I would highly suggest you either buy GoPro accessories or the third-party accessories that other companies make for GoPros. Those are going to be much more sturdy than the little pieces of plastic that come with this, because it feels like a really cheap plastic. So one of the things that really surprised me with this camera that I was really happy about was the menu. It was very easy with the LCD screen on the back to just cycle through the menus, change settings, format the SD card, do whatever you gotta do. Typically, they're very bad. This one actually laid it out super easy, so I was really happy about that. Continuing with that menu situation, having the LCD screen on the back of the camera is so helpful, especially when navigating menus and stuff like that, but it also plays a vital role in actually framing your shots. It's so much easier to set up a camera when you have an LCD screen on the back. I currently use a GoPro Hero 4 Black, and it has no LCD screen. The quality is fantastic, but when you use one of these little cameras with an LCD screen, it makes it so much easier to use the camera, and I really love having an LCD screen on the back. Alright, so at the end of the day, this thing is a camera, right? So you're wondering what the quality of the camera looks like. Well, I've tested against my Hero 4 Black. I use the exact same settings, so let's check some footage out. Here's some footage in 1080p at 60 frames a second. Here's the GoPro. Here's the SJ cam. Granted, this is on YouTube and it's going to compress the videos and stuff like that, but I'm betting you can still see a difference. Let's check out 4K at 24 frames a second. So the 4K is not as bad, right? I think the 4K is not horrible, but the 1080p 60 is pretty bad in my personal opinion. I don't think I would ever use this camera in 1080p 60, and I'll tell you why. So earlier I told you guys that this camera can only record up to cards with 32 gigabytes, and I said that that would be a problem with a GoPro because files are so much larger. Well, on the SJ Cam, the files are considerably smaller, and the reason that is because of the bitrate that the camera actually records to the memory card. Think of bitrate as how much information a camera packs into an image. So it can still be 1080, but there can be a higher bitrate that 1080 is written to, so there's going to be more quality in that 1080p footage. We're not going to go too deep into the footage situation. Just know that the same resolution footage coming out of the SJ Cam looks considerably different to the exact same footage coming out of a GoPro, and that's because the bitrate is not as good as the GoPro has. That's why the files are so much larger. That being said, the 32GB maximum for the card size isn't that big of a problem because the files end up not being that large from this camera. Okay, so probably the coolest thing about this camera and the most unique thing that it has going for it is it has a mode called motion detection. You probably know what that means. So if you put the camera in motion detect mode and you just sit the camera down, anytime there's motion in front of the camera, you guessed it, it's gonna start recording. So this isn't really a mode that I would look for personally, but I could totally see this camera now having its use in like maybe a setting where you want to record any type of motion and the camera's just going to sit there, you probably plug it into a power source. That could be a really cool use for this camera. So for the first time, I have a budget action camera that has Wi-Fi that I can actually use the app on. So good job SJ Cam for finally having an app. All these other budget cameras have actually had apps, but I've never gotten them to work before. Granted, the app's not too important since it does have that 2-inch LCD screen on the back, but it is helpful for like if the camera is not close to you and you just want to see what's on it. So while using the app, I did notice this odd little bug. If you try to change the video settings in the camera to 4K in the app, suddenly 4K is not available. You can't even change the camera into 4K if the app is on the actual camera. You turn the Wi-Fi off, turn the camera off, turn it back on, and suddenly you can use 4K again. Not really sure if that's some type of like Wi-Fi bug or what, but I was like, so I can't record in the best setting if I'm using your parent app in the camera. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. So the main reason I got my buddies at GearBest to send me this camera is because you guys recommended it so much on my last video of the Firefly 6S or S6 review. And why? You guys said that I could use a microphone with this camera. Tested that out, upgraded the internal software, still not able to use an external microphone with this camera. So guys, at the end of the day, what do I think about this camera? For one, this camera is $100 and has a ton of features that you can really use and it's really beneficial, but I've used two other budget cameras. I've used the Firefly and I've used the Blackview. I still think the Firefly is far superior in video quality than this camera. Doesn't have an LCD screen, but even with considering the LCD screen and the motion detection, I still would not recommend the SJ5000 over the Firefly. The quality of the Firefly actually looked really good compared to these other budget cameras. I was also looking up pricing for the Firefly, the Blackview, and the SJ Cam. The SJ Cam comes in at the most expensive, and to be honest, I would consider it a slight upgrade from the Blackview, but a far downgrade from the Firefly. So obviously I'm going to give you guys a link to the SJ5000X if you guys want to check it out in the description. But the camera I'm going to also put down there that I really recommend you guys check out is the Firefly. I'm also going to put a card in the top of the screen. Click over, watch the Firefly review. You can see the footage back and forth with an actual GoPro 4 Black, and you can see the quality standing up with that. If you guys are looking for a cheap budget camera, I do not recommend the SJ5000X. I do recommend the Firefly though. So guys, that's my review of the SJ5000X. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to hit that like button. It is always appreciated here on the channel. And let me know in the comments which camera on GearBest you guys want me to test out next, because I'm trying to find that awesome camera that you guys can actually buy and not have to spend $500 on a GoPro. I'll see you on the next video. I'm Chaseontwowheels. Later.